Good afternoon, everyone. I am Seth Garu Baxter here with Makers Bar. So glad to have you joining us today. We are on a mission to create 1 million leaders, where we are a place where leaders gather to inspire, encourage, and help us assist with the future of tomorrow. Today, I'm extremely pleased to have with us the co-founder of We Integrate. His name is Marc Kalman. Marc, how are you today?
Doing great, Seth. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Getting over the last bit of a cold, so now I'm feeling up to par and ready to converse with you, and looking forward to all the good information you're going to give us about We Integrate. Today, Marc, who we have with us, is from on the East Coast. Oh yeah, he's from Bronx. We're glad to have some New Yorkers in the house and some East Coasters. Here. So Marc has attended Monmouth University and Rutgers University. He's currently residing in Manhattan, and with Marc, his company has a new take on things. They're not just your average accounting application app. One of the taglines that they have that I really enjoy reading is that they are more than an accounting integration app. They're an intelligent automation, for small businesses and accountants too. And if you are a small business owner or a startup, We Integrate is something you might want to look into as far as streamlining the process. And I'm sure Marc's going to give us a little more insight into some of their products and services and what they are able to do for small businesses. Marc, tell us a little bit about how you got started in your early career.
Yeah, awesome, Seth. Thank you. And I'm really excited to be here today. We really appreciate the opportunity, and really excited to share the story of being an entrepreneur and some of the ups and downs that I've went through in my span of being an entrepreneur. So I got started. I went to school for computer science. I majored in computer comp sci with a minor in business. And when I got out, I first worked as a software engineer. I was a coder in enterprise systems, particularly enterprise resource planning, ERP. So I got very entrenched right out of the gate into heavy, big systems that supported mid-size and larger operations. And as I started going through my career, I started getting exposed to some more of the smaller businesses that were in the market, and seeing that these systems were very big and robust, and difficult for these smaller businesses to obtain and understand and use. And as market evolved, we saw that there was an opportunity to help small businesses with a particular area in supply chain. So I met my partner for my first business at one of the companies I was working at, where we were doing services for what's called electronic data interchain. It's a supply chain technology that automates the exchange of data between buyers and sellers, commonly used in large retail sales, right? So if you're wholesaling to say a Bloomingdale's or Target or any hundreds of companies, retail chains throughout the country, you're generally going to participate in this EDI technology, because these larger companies don't deal with paper, right? They do everything's automated and electronic. And this too was a very legacy technology. But what was happening is these large retailers were starting to push downstream to their smaller tier, and there was really no good solution out there to help them. So my partner and I saw that opportunity, and we jumped in. And yes, there was competitors, but we saw there was a unique angle on how to satisfy that problem. And this was a really good first lesson in working with customers, is to really understand that, hey, you know what? Just because everyone else over here is doing it this way doesn't mean it's the right way to do it, right? So we spent time really trying to understand what the needs of the customers were, and we launched a system that did really well. Still today does really well. In fact, at the time, we were proven to be 90% more efficient than anything on the market. We had a 99% retention rate on customers, and we were just like a dominant system in player in the market at that time. After being part of that and driving that business for 11 years, it was time for me to move on. I was looking for bigger, had bigger aspirations. I started up an ERP company for small businesses, which it came with a whole different set of learning experiences because that company didn't do so well. And love to talk to you about that tonight too. Had some, failure, and they always say that you learn a lot more in failure than you do in success. And this was certainly one of
I'm
those
so glad
examples.
you said that.
Yeah, this is definitely a good. I probably learned every failure lesson in this one issue. But then, the things that I learned is I also learned about myself that I'm strong, I'm resilient, and able to bounce back and go at it again, right? Because I was, lots of entrepreneurs fail, right? It's part of being an entrepreneur. You got to be willing to take that risk and take that chance and learn from your mistakes and move forward. And I was one for one, had one really big success and one not so good success. So I went at it again, and I met up with my my now partner, Gennady Kleiner, who's a technology genius, and he's built some really large scale, Fortune 100 systems, and he and I partner really well together. And we saw there was a tremendous opportunity here to start We Integrate, right? Because where we're starting today is we are this integration engine between Shopify and QuickBooks Online. And there's a really big emerging market there. And what we're seeing is, while, again, it's another one of the scenarios, while there's competitors in that space, their approach to solving the problem isn't exactly what people need. It almost sounds like it is. When you get under the covers, we learn that it really wasn't. So there was a place for us to come in and really make a difference. And we're doing that. And yes, we are early. And yes, this is a newer startup, but we're already gaining a lot of traction. We're becoming a disruptive getting a disruptive reputation in the market, and really excited about where this future is going.
Mark, if you don't mind me asking to backtrack a little bit, explain or break down EDI and some of the terminologies you used for some of our viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. So EDI stands for Electronic Data Interchange. We would refer to it as everyday insanity, because it's pretty intense.
Everyday insanity.
Yeah, it's a pretty intense legacy technology. Again, as a smaller business, you want to stay clear of the technology if you can. And in fact, even on a business side, at the time, many smaller businesses would try to shy away from doing EDI because it had this real rough stigma associated with it. And basically what happens is if you try to sell to, let's say, like a Nordstrom or a Target or Best Buy, they require that you can support this. And what they will do is, when they want to order from you, they'll send you purchase orders electronically. There's no paper, so it all comes digitally. They expect you to send them very detailed shipping manifests, down to like listing what items are in what boxes, which has a barcode label on the side that they can scan and automatically check these items into their inventory. And then you would invoice them electronically as well. They pay you electronically. There's invoice exchanges. So basically everything you would do from a document and support perspective is all done electronically.
Really streamlining. You'd say, I'm sorry to interrupt. Streamlining the process.
Exactly. Now, the average listener is probably saying, okay, so what, right? I mean, that's what we do today, right? But EDI is a managed technology, right? There's a set of standards and systematic adoption on how it's managed, and it's very legacy. And the retail industry as a whole is holding on to this legacy technology because so much as investment has gone into it at a very very large scale. Companies are resistant to move off of it, right? Especially on the retail side, who generally controls the relationship, because they're so massive, and most businesses will do whatever they have to try to get the opportunity with those large retailers. So the technology is complex. It's very difficult to manage. And so what we did is we built a SaaS-based platform that sat on top of it, that underneath the hood, we were translating all this data back and forth as we needed to, right? So unbeknownst to our clients, this was all kind of going on. And what we gave them on the front end was a very easy to use, but very powerful supply chain tool that allowed them in very easy ways to bring in tons of orders, process tons of shit. Like when they would go to process shipment, our system could automatically calculate all the elements of the shipment, including down to, if they could have like 1,000 cartons that they have to ship out, push a button, and just a couple minutes later, our system would have determined, how to pack their cartons for them and what the serialization looked like. and that would compete with very large. That would almost be competing with systems like SAP at that kind of power, right? So it was a great success, but it was also easy to use. It was very affordable, so it became a really great opportunity to learn how to deliver a quality system to clients. Filling a void for what they needed to do to succeed, let alone survive.
Do you have a specific size of company that this is best used for? So some companies who might have 5 to 10 employees or 15 to 100, is there a specific structural dynamic that plays into how we integrate is able to help those smaller businesses? Does it go up to a certain limit of employees or?
Yeah. So now if we're talking about We Integrate, right, which, so what We Integrate does is, so We Integrate works a little bit different than that company with EDI does, right? So with We Integrate, what we do is we will automatically bring in the Shopify orders, right? So we do everything in instantly, right? So when a customer places an order on a Shopify store, right, our system will instantly bring those orders in, and within seconds, those orders go from Shopify into QuickBooks Online, right? That's one of the unique differences that we have in our system compared to other opportunities that are out there, other solution providers that are out there in the marketplace. So we offer that, and we also help manage inventory, manage the sales, and we reconcile payments. So we are a really good fit for any entrepreneur or small business. I'd say probably up to about 20 million in revenue that needs to run a business through Shopify. Yeah, because we do support that enterprise power. And it's just easy to use, and it's just fast, and it's simple. But we do focus our energies on the smaller businesses. In fact, interesting statistic is that 90% of the e-commerce businesses that are out there, particularly using Shopify, are $1 million, $1.5 million in revenue and less, right? So we're really servicing that market primarily.
And so, what are some of the challenges that you face with the companies in that arena?
Well, it's kind of interesting that different challenges across the board. Sometimes, so it's actually quite fascinating. So you're dealing with companies that aren't necessarily, sometimes, if they have an accountant, it's great. Of course, if they don't have an accountant, that's great too. But when they don't have an accountant, they're not as, accounting versed, so some of the, they knew they wanted to start Shopify, right? And they have a QuickBooks, account, because they know they need to do accounting, but they're new, right? So you couldn't expect them to know anything more. I mean, some people do, and some people we have a new client of ours took like a whole 3-4 month bookkeeping course, because they just wanted to be familiar with how bookkeeping works. And but a lot of them don't understand the dynamics of general ledger and journal entries and accounting and debits and credits, and even how to set QuickBooks up the right way, let alone to do it for an e-commerce business in particular. So what we're finding, it's becoming a great learning experience as we're working with our clients to figure out how to improve the onboarding process, so that even a client like that can have the system hold their hand through the process. They can feel comfortable and secure and know that someone's got their back, or in this case, the system has their back to help them, do what they need to do, because they're not here to run QuickBooks. They're here to sell stuff on Shopify, right? And so if we can help enable that easier for them, that's what we're all about.
And so I'm a new business. Seth Guru has a sneaker business, and I'm not very knowledgeable on QuickBooks, and yet I have my dad's old accountant who has done my Pops books for years, etc. I'm coming to We Integrate to replace him and or supplement him. How does that work?
Yeah, so we don't necessarily look to replace the financial professional. We just look to automate and improve the quality of the data that's coming into QuickBooks from Shopify, right? So in practice, right? Yes, on one hand, the entrepreneur gets an opportunity to potentially lower their cost of managing that part of their business, right? Which is great. On the other hand, there's an opportunity for the financial professional, the accountant or the bookkeeper, to work with their clients in a more value-added way, right? So instead of them wasting time on bookkeeping, right, they get the opportunity now to help guide them financially.
And in guiding them financially, some of the challenges that you face might look like what?
Well, well, it wouldn't be for us. It would be more the accountants, right? So when the accountants are, trying to help their clients, right, helping them focus on how to manage, their investments, right? Like, if they're tracking inventory, giving them guidance on, what's a good way to manage their inventory? Are they making the right, is their cash flow good? Or is there, things like that help them kind of run the business from a more intelligent perspective. Again, instead of managing the details of entering data, they have an opportunity to go in and guide them and help them make better decisions.
And in doing so, what would you say is what most satisfies you as far as when you created or co-founded We Integrate? What is the most satisfaction you get out of seeing where your company is going? Where do you see that fulfillment?
So that's a great question, Seth. I got to tell you, being my third company now, and really passionate about what we're doing here with We Integrate and helping small businesses, it is incredibly exciting, even at this early stage, to see the impact that we're having both on the entrepreneur as well as their accountants, right? So, and again, we're new, and this is good because what we're doing is we're being very pragmatic on focusing on product market fit and innovation. Right. So we're not trying to just do the same thing over and over again. We're trying to, again, like I said earlier, just really get to the core root of the problems that people are facing and solve them in an earnest way, the way that they intend it to be solved, not at a surface level, which is what, a lot of the competitors that we're facing are dealing with. And so here, because we're doing it, what I would consider, perspective, right? From my perspective, that we solve it the right way. We are seeing reactions from both the merchants, the Shopify merchants clients, as well as the partners that we work with on the accounting side, that they're just so thankful for the time that we're saving them between improving the accuracy, helping them improve how they file their sales tax, better handle on managing inventory, when they want to reconcile between the payments coming in and the sales that they had, taking what used to take an hour of work down to about 10 seconds, right? They're ecstatic, and this is, again, we're just getting started on our plans, on our vision, on our future. And to have this kind of impact early on is incredibly satisfying and exciting, because again, it's all about, the difference that we can make in the lives of the people that we're here to serve.
So the satisfaction comes from the differences that you're making in entrepreneurs and small business lives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure, forgive me, how long has We Integrate been in business?
So we've been in market a little under a couple years now. And, customer retention is solid and we're growing fast, and, really excited about the many years that are coming ahead of us.
And I'm curious, some of your interests prior to coming up with We Integrate, and you said this is your third iteration of a startup. What were some of those prior business opportunities that you explored before We Integrate?
Well, I started EasyCom software, which was the EDI provider that we were talking about before, right? And that was a very successful venture and still is. I, after 11 years, decided I was looking to do more with my career, and moved on to start my second company, which was an ERP provider. That ERP, enterprise resource planning. So managing orders and inventory, and really large scale type things, but again, catered around small businesses. I never moved off of my passion for helping small businesses with what we do, because I was always interested in really seeing that that's where there's a tremendous opportunity if you can get it right. But the ERP, the second business didn't, we ran some challenges, and ultimately it was a failure. And like I said before, there's just a lot of great lessons we learned there that
absolutely
have made an impact and a difference here in what we're doing with We Integrate.
Absolutely. And some of those failures, if you can give, what's the first lesson you would feel you've gotten from your failure and then get back up? The first lesson.
The first lesson is, I don't know, I'd say the first one, but there's definitely, one of the lessons was I should say, I was needing to get money in the business. And so we took capital from outside investors too soon. And we wound up taking the
Hmm.
wrong capital from the wrong type of investor for us at that time. They're great people. It was great. Just wasn't a good fit for us, but we were desperate at that time, or thought we were desperate. And, we wound up taking this capital. It misaligned the company, right? Because their expectations of what we were going to do and our expectations of where we weren't aligned.
So how would you translate that as advice for an up and coming entrepreneur? That first lesson.
Yeah. So what I would do is what we're doing here with We Integrate. By the way, what we would also do with EasyCom too. So that was successful, and now this is showing to be successful as well. Is don't jump out and get money. It sounds like it's a great idea, but wait. First of all, decide if you want to be that business, if you want to take outside capital. There's nothing wrong with it. And with We Integrate, we plan to do that. We're getting close to the point where we're going to actually go ahead and raise some capital, because we feel it's the right thing for us to do, and it's not right for everybody. But before we do it, we're making sure we're actually in that place where we can, right? Because even if you're dealing with seed capital, right? There is an element of, you're going to take this capital in, and you're going to obviously need to produce results, right? Those results are a little bit different. Seed capital helps you kind of get across that product market fit finish line, right? But beyond that, investors are expecting you to grow and scale, right? So we're actually, for us, the right feeling is that we're going to be waiting until we hit product market fit. We're very close, and we're demonstrating traction now, right? And we have, by the way, a very high retention. Very high. We're over 95% retention for our customers. Number one. Number two, we also have a very high free trial to paid conversion rate. We're we consider ourselves a self-service business, and so self-service models generally run around a 25% conversion rate, and we're between 75 and 80% conversion right now. So we feel we're
75.
75 to 80% compared to 25%, which is the market standard. And so we feel that we're kind of aligning our metrics properly to show that we have a solid business that's scalable, right? And that's the other thing too, Seth, is make sure your business is truly scalable. Be honest with yourself. Don't try to put a round peg in a square hole, which is part of what I did with the second company, the ERP company. Because I wanted to grow, and I was kidding myself, and therefore kidding investors, that the software was ready, and it wasn't quite ready to scale. So just make sure your product's ready to scale, because once you start putting that money behind it and you do start selling, if the product can't stand up to what you're selling, it's going to be retention is one of the top product management metrics you're supposed to be focusing on before even ahead of conversions and scaling and revenue. So focus on retention first, and that's what we're doing here with We Integrate, and it's proven to be the right thing to do.
And so you mentioned something I found very interesting. And so you're thinking it's better to try to use your own capital before going after seed capital?
I do believe it is. Again, that's just for us. There's nothing wrong with seed capital, but for us, it was the right thing. It was the right decision to do. And we're also operating very lean, too. So we're not doing what we would probably do with someone else's money right now, and that is be burning through it, right? Because it's like right? We don't want to do that. We want to first make sure we have a model that's solid. And so we're being conservative even with our own money that we're putting in, right? So we're investing in some marketing, but we're doing it conservatively right now because we're proving out our numbers so that we can take these data points, and we're growing, by the way, and we're growing very solidly and very healthy, and the rate of growth is increasing, right? So we're definitely demonstrating things we need to demonstrate. But yeah, for us, we felt it was better to use our own capital from a bootstrap perspective, and really, prove out the model, prove out the numbers first, which, by the way, when you do that and you stand in front of an investor, you can speak a lot more confidently from a strong position that you know your business, right? We're learning our business. We're learning what makes our business tick. We're learning what makes our business operate. And, we don't have to like memorize things before we go to an investor, because we know the data. We know the data points. We know what's making the business run, right? So that's just another good piece of advice.
And in going along with that advice, as a startup or an entrepreneur, what would you say in order to keep yourself kind of thin financially or budgetary wise? How would I, as a startup company, if I'm currently in a full-time position, but I'm looking to build my own business, what would you say are the first steps, thinking that I want to do it with my own money that I have from a full-time company? What advice would you give someone like that?
So, Seth, you're saying like you have a full-time job during the day and you want to start up a company on the side?
Correct.
Yeah. So, that's an interesting challenge. Be prepared for a lot of, look, like any business, you got to be willing to put the time in, number one, right? So you're going to be faced with a lot of time. When you're, if you have capital, and you have capital you can work with, like if you have a full-time job, these days it's a little different, right? But often people have some form of disposable income. You just got to prioritize what's important to you. And if your business is that important to you, if you're passionate about it, you'll make the right decisions for how you want to prioritize your cash, right? Versus others. And, but I would recommend also, regardless of that, figure out your model and don't just kind of jump in with, tons of cash. If you have it, go slow, right? Start, like figure it out. We all as entrepreneurs, right? The businesses can never grow fast enough. I don't care how fast your business is growing. You want it to grow faster, right? But it will come, but be smart about it. Like learn how it works first. Incremental investments, right? So try this, try that, put it just enough in to test the waters here, test the waters there, see what kind of results you get, right? Feel comfortable and say, did I put enough in to feel good that was that a valid test? Like get valid tests, right? And then learn from those tests and then try more and try increasing here and increasing there and look at what works and stop doing what doesn't work, right? And be very focused and very lean. And if you keep, if you're making marketing, if you're, a self-service business or whatever it is, and you have to manage, look at sales or marketing, whatever it is that's going to drive your growth engine, right? What we do is, what I'd recommend is you keep a spreadsheet, like here's what the money I'm investing in each one of these detailed channels. And you don't need anything fancy, just like a standard spreadsheet. You list on the left side, we do it by month, right? And here's the different area. We invest in the Facebook ads, we invest into Google, we invest into this, we invest into that, right? And you put how much you're investing, what kind of return you're getting, what kind of click-throughs, how many customers are signing up, what's the value of those customers, and do like a whole, return on ad investment analysis and look at it. And you'll see it's going to be very clear, right? Are these investments working? Are these investments not working? Slow down the ones that aren't, and try increasing the ones that are working. But it's a constant test. You got to stay very rigorous to doing it, but do it as efficiently as you can, right? Because money, especially if you have a family, right? You want to be careful with your money, right? And trust yourself and trust your business, and let your business grow. Let your business talk to you. Learn from what it's doing, and then as it grows more and more and more, you will start being able to feel more comfortable about those investments. And soon enough, by the way, the business starts making its own money, right? That you can start reinvesting that money into the business and slowing down your own personal investment.
And going along those lines, how would you define where you would measure success? Are there earmark points, specific date timelines that you can say, now it's 2 years, here we've been successful thus far, or would you look at it, we have not been as successful? How would you define success in certain time frame markers, or how do you look at that?
I think as a startup, you have to be very truthful with yourself and very honest with yourself and open, right? And open-minded. And it's very, it's hard to be objective, right? Especially when you're passionate about something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you have to try to remove yourself from that passion and pretend you're someone else looking at your business, and be really sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it hurts to see the honest truth, right? But you have to look at that truth. And I don't think 2 years, you have to do it like almost like every month. You have to kind of analyze it. You have to be prepared to say, okay, this is working, this is not working. And just continue to try to focus on the things that are working. And, sure enough, you might find out after 6 months, you thought something was going to work out, or after 4 months, you thought something was going to work out. It didn't work out. Well, it doesn't mean you're over, right? Is there another angle you could take? The term pivot, right? Which is very common, right? Say I started off doing this, and while I was doing this, well, what did I learn, right? I learned, that customers don't necessarily respond to this, but people are asking me a lot about this, right? So they don't want this, but they're asking me about that, right? So maybe I should be focusing on that and do some research. That's another thing too, by the way, right? We didn't talk about that, is research the market totally before you even go into it, which I think is common
I'm so glad you said it.
But a lot
Absolutely.
of people, a lot of people are very excited about their passion, and they just kind of jump in feet first. But you have, like we did too. I mean, I know the market that we're in, but we still did a lot of research to understand, who our competitors are. Is there an opportunity? Is it saturated? Why would someone all of a sudden, switch from them to us? Like, what's going to make them move over to us? Aren't they happy where they are? And it seemed like a little bit like it was, but we started seeing that there were places that we could differentiate and make a difference. And that's a key. Can you differentiate? Can you make a difference?
And what's your approach in giving people a reason why they should choose We Integrate versus possible competitors and or new startups similar to We Integrate?
Well, now we're just the best. I mean, I'm kidding.
Sort of. We got to show that shirt too.
There you go. Yeah. No, we actually are. So we're putting forth a very quality system. Again, we're that's another thing too, is, when you want to go and deliver a quality system, don't wait for it to be 100%. Like, there's all this talk of MVP, and if people are familiar with the term, if people are familiar with agile and, fail fast and learn and iterate, right? These are all things that apply, right? You have to get to, as a start, especially if you're in software, which is what we are, you have to get to market fast, right? You don't want to get too fast, right? Because last thing you need is to put something in market that is a complete flop, right? But talk to, and you know what? Talk to customers. Like we do that all the time. And if you don't have customers, talk to potential customers. Like, figure out how to get in contact with people and learn. Like in our case, before we were in market, even just on Facebook, there's so many Facebook groups out there that are focused on helping that accountants flourish around, right? So I just started making friends with people in these Facebook groups, right? And I started having conversations with them and started asking them about, integrating and what about this and what about that. And I kind of started learning from their perspective, and even what they felt our competitors are doing right and wrong. And that's where we started seeing where there were holes, right, in the philosophy that was getting widely adopted. And we were able to challenge it. Sometimes you have to be, you have to know, they don't always tell you the right answer. Sometimes they'll give you an answer, but you have to realize what they're saying and come back with a follow-up question to kind of dig beneath those covers to get to the root of where that lies. And if you can do that, I promise you, you'll find that there's opportunities. And if you find that there's no opportunity in there, even if it's your passion, find something else, but yeah.
I think research is key, and that's one of the important points I'm glad you really spoke about. I'm always one that says, once you do your research, you're fully informed. At least it helps you to make better informed decisions about who you would select to do business with. And I think that's one of the biggest components is the research. What would you say is second after research?
Market. I mean, part of the research uncovers, right, what's the market opportunity looking like, right? Like, is this an industry that's on an uptick, right, or is it stagnant, or closing up shop, right? I think that's kind of important too, and can you make a difference, in that space? Like can you innovate? Like there's a great, the book, 0 to 1. Right, by Peter Thiel.
Yes,
talks about this.
Yes, I'm familiar. Yes,
Don't copy what everyone else is doing. Right, like try, and there's two ways to succeed, right? That he talks about. One way is you come up with something completely new that no one is doing, right? And this is if anybody that's listening to this has not read this book, I strongly recommend it. It's a fantastic book. It's a quick read, but this 1.2 ways to drive success, right? One is come up with something completely new that's different that people want, that fills that void that needs to get filled. Or if you're going to improve, right? If there's a market you want to go into and there's competitors there, you have to do it better than they're doing and different enough. You have to be like 10 times better than what they're doing, right? And you have to figure out how can you do that. And if you can figure that out, then great, then you have something to run with. But if you can't, then you probably don't want to go into that space either. And for us, we saw an opportunity to do something 10 times better.
10 times better. I'm curious, in some of that leadership style, I think plays a component as far as even if you're at the beginning of your company, but you begin to now interview or recruit. I'm a huge recruitment person, part of my professional background. But in recruiting new employees, you develop the style as your own boss because you're the entrepreneur. Now you need to develop a personality type as a boss. What would your leadership style be like? You as the We Integrate founder, what's your leadership style like?
I think to me, leadership styles is a lot to do with your personality, right? I think no matter how you slice it up, but I think you have to be willing to be adaptable, right, for the needs, right? So there's a part as a leader that you need to be the innovator, right, the driver, right, which is a big part of where we are right now. We have to kind of wave the spear and kind of follow us uphill, kind of thing, and we're kind of driving forward, right? But on the other hand, we have to take this approach of being that consultative, democratic kind of perspective where we need to teach people, we need to educate people, and we want feedback from people. We want to inspire innovation, right? Like we don't want to have a culture where Gennady and I are the dictators of everything. We want people to feel that they can contribute, like they have something to say, and so we have to create that kind of culture, that kind of environment. But we have to lead. We have to make them feel they can contribute, but at the same time we have to lead and we have to guide and we have to drive it forward.
Would you say some of that is role modeling that via communication between you and the co-founder? We explore our challenges this way, and then your employees or your team members, they see you two as the role models. So leadership tends to be a role model as far as how this is the way we want our company to run. Or if you might elaborate on that a little bit.
Absolutely, we lead by example. We're and I think you have to be as having a startup, you have to be willing to roll up your sleeves and dig in with everybody else, and we do that, and we will do it and show people and demonstrate and sort of pull people forward with us as we're doing it and teach people, right, as we learn and as we have to drive, because sometimes we have to kind of move on things, right? But anytime we have to move on things, if we're going to go out, like had some great opportunities to teach folks on product management skills, right? Like how to get out in front of customers and learn and collect all the data and make the decisions you have around how you're going to build out your solution very data centric and less emotion, more about data and facts, and how to collect the data, how to organize the data, how to validate the data, right? And not just doing it, but teaching people how to do it while we're doing it, like kind of literally on the job training.
Absolutely. I meant to go back to something. We Integrate is a mobile app accessible as well?
We're web-based, so you can operate us on a mobile device. We have quite a number of clients that run us on iPads. You could run us on a phone too, but we're not mobile. We're not native to the mobile device at the moment.
Okay, and I guess
take us on the mobile
web-based.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was thinking about some of the applications, considering that everyone is either, if it's not the iPad, it's the telephone, and just looking at some of the entrepreneurs, some of the young people in their 20s, everything's on the phone, so their accounting's on the phone, everything. And so I was curious if there were applications that are mobile transportable, but in thinking about the iPads, it makes sense to me as well. If you had to think of a mentor that gives you inspiration for We Integrate, who would that mentor be? Past, present, I forgot the expression. It's living or dead. I don't know if that's right. That might not be the right way to put it.
I think that's the right way to put it. I don't know how else to put it. Yeah, I'd say,
who inspired you? Who inspired you? I should say. Who inspired? Who's your role model as a mentor, past, living or dead? I keep feeling. I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
Yeah, no, so my dad, my father wasn't a business person per se, but my dad lived a great life, and my dad was a music educator. And if you ever watched the movie Mr. Holland's Opus,
Oh yeah,
that's
that
reflective
Richard
of.
Dreyfuss.
Yep, absolutely, and that's a great reflection of the kind of person my dad was, as far as the differences that he made in people's lives. And in fact, when my dad did pass away a while back, and when he passed away, there were over 1,000 people at his funeral because of the difference that he made in these people's lives. And I mean, people came back and they were just there for him. They couldn't even get into the ceremony. And I said to myself at that time, I'm like, my dad dedicated his life to making a difference in people's lives, and if I could live half that life, that's a great life, And so.
Absolutely.
My vehicle to do that is software and technology, and I have a long way to go to catch up to that. but
I like that.
How to impact here. That's what we're all about.
Absolutely. And speaking about your dad, definitely, I would say one of my biggest role models was my dad and the impact. And you mentioned thousands of people attending his funeral. I have to say, in some of the ventures of my life, not all of them with sin, but the impact that he had was, it was really important to him. His passion was in making people feel special, and having people feel that they were uniquely created, and leaving that impact was how, even in coming to work with Makerspar and meeting persons like yourself, we create a difference in each other's lives. I think often our impact is not, sometimes we don't see it ourselves. And for me, that pursuit and seeing, it was just an everyday thing for him to want to inspire someone. It just relate to you, seeing him as that role model and mentor. For me, it would be my dad as well. I definitely admire and commend you on that.
Thank you.
Now you mentioned, absolutely, you mentioned your dad, and what are some of the other hobbies and or interests that you have? I think I can share this, that we have a shared interest and passion for music.
We do. Well, yes. I mean, growing up with a music educator, it's hard not to be involved in music, right? So my primary instrument I played throughout my probably from the time I was about 11 years old up. It was percussion early on, we'll call it. Different types of drums in jazz and symphony, and then later in
my life, you said my language.
Yeah. Jazz. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And then later on in my life, got a little bit more involved with rock and roll. When I was younger, like in junior high school and high school, I used to compete, and I would always come in like the top 3 positions, both at the regional and state levels, and year over year. So that was just something that everybody, whether it's sports or music, and you have these opportunities to sort of learn how to compete and drive and work towards something successful. These are all important skills for being an entrepreneur, right? Because you're going to be challenged. You're going to have to drive through. You're going to have to get across that finish line, regardless of what comes your way. And there's some common ground there. Later on in life, when I got to the rock and roll stuff, that was more fun. Stuff like one of my bands from Meatloaf. It was kind of fun and cool.
Oh yeah, I'll do anything for love. Meatloaf.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
and in fact, was very close to signing a record contract with a particular record label at one point. But you know, music industry is a funny business, and it didn't work out. Fortunately, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here today having this conversation, which I'm truly enjoying.
Never know. We might have found some other ways to connect via our
True,
spiritual music connection vibes.
true. Good point.
So, music still plays an important part in your extracurricular activities.
It does absolutely. You know, I unfortunately don't find the time as much as I'd like to right now. You know, one of the downsides of being an entrepreneur, but you know, to play. But it is, I do play a little bit, and looking forward to, you know, at some point, you know, play more.
If you had some music inspirations, you want to name a few. So we mentioned Meatloaf a little bit. I'll do anything for love too.
Yeah.
Any other people that come to mind right off the bat? Percussionists, singers, anyone that comes to mind right off the bat?
Well, so more from a influence perspective overall, like bands and the band like the bands that I would play in, we would generally be more like Aerosmith and
Oh yeah.
Van Halen, you know, that kind of rock and roll,
Oh
good,
yeah.
good,
That's
good
the good
energy,
stuff.
fun stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And speaking about being an entrepreneur and some of those passions, I'm curious. I know nowadays we're so busy with everything going on. The work life balance has become a point of our regular conversations. How do you cultivate a work life balance for yourself? And how does that fit into what you might call your family time and or personal time?
Yeah, that's a good question, Seth. You know, as an
And
entrepreneur,
then maybe it's not, maybe it's kind of, maybe it is, are we chasing a dream when we say there's a work life balance? And forgive me, I didn't want to cut you off, but is that something that's somewhat elusive because being an entrepreneur, your whole passion is just for your company? Or is there really a way to cultivate work life balance?
you know, I think it depends. I would truly say that I think in it could be a case by case situation, right? I think there's a variety of factors that ultimately could go into it, depending on, you know, what your business is, and you know how, you know, is it a first time, and are you learning a lot and making more mistakes, and you know, that sort of thing, or not. But I think generally speaking, I think if you are serious about being an entrepreneur, you will sacrifice family time without question. And I don't mean to sound bad when I say this, but a lot of times the business will come first. You know, you don't want it to come first, right? You want I love my family. I have an amazing wife, an amazing daughter, and cat that are very supportive, and I'm very lucky. And that's a very important thing, because it could easily go the other way. Like if you don't have that support, it's going to be very rough, right? It's going to be very
Yeah, for
challenging.
sure.
And even with the support, it's challenging because you do put a lot of time in. You are working long hours, and you aren't home a lot. And you know, it's days, nights, weekends, right? You're gonna miss, you know, important things, right? You know, not just birthdays because you have to go to this, you know, event or meet this new client somewhere and go, and you're not going to be home. But you know, I've missed you know, anniversaries, you know, and you know, just not intentionally, but it happens, right? So these are sacrifices you'll make, but if you have a supportive family behind you, you know, then that's fantastic, because in the end, you know, why are we doing this, right? You know, we're doing this because we have a passion, but we're also doing it because we see something of control of our destiny for us and our family, right? And
Mm.
that everybody's going to be the benefactor, but it's going to affect not just you, the entrepreneur, it's going to affect your family too. And so I say,
So,
when you have to make the most of those moments, you know, and you got to squeeze stuff in, you know, like I would, and you gotta take the role. You have to jump at those opportunities when you can. Like my daughter is become passionate about volleyball, you know, and so and I'm passionate about her passion, right? And I want to see her play. I want to have those opportunities when I can. I'm away a lot, but like if they have a practice or a game on a Sunday, right? I will, if I have to fly out on Sunday night, which tends to happen, I will, book my flight around that, and I go, with her to the game, and I'm there and I'm cheering her on, and, really supporting her. And then I go from the game to the airport, with my luggage in tow. Right. So,
So
but you will definitely
prioritizing.
sacrifice it.
It's the prioritization that seems to be the case, but understanding that with being an entrepreneur, those sacrifices definitely are going to have to be made, and some of those choices I see are difficult. Having heard you say that a number of the mentors I look up to, the startup business and being an entrepreneur, the work-life balance definitely has been points of conversations, really, so much so that I see the conflict becomes, how can I make time for family and make time for business and keep them in balance without me, the individual, being stressed out?
Yeah. If you figured out that formula, like, I want to interview you.
I have not. I have
Yeah.
not yet.
And by the way, here's an interesting point too, is, and I learned this, I did it wrong, but when I was going through the failure business, failure business, when I was failing at business, that was very hard. I was married and I had a daughter, and we basically lost almost everything during that phase. And
Oh wow!
I learned you have
Would
to.
you mind, Mark, if you wouldn't mind, would you elaborate on that just a little, as you feel comfortable?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was one of those scenarios where I was coming off a lot of success, you know, and let's just say my instincts for success were a little, like, I mean, I have good instincts, of course, but it was more about, I was a little overconfident, going into the second one. And it became the catalyst for some bad decisions early on that carried through. And again, as I mentioned, we wound up taking money before we were ready to take money. We overpromised, underdelivered. We just all, like, just about anything you could think that someone could do wrong in a business, we kind of did with this one business. And I shouldn't say we, I did it. And it was very difficult, and my family and I, we put money into this one, and a fair amount of money coming off the first one. And it, I just made some bad mistakes, and I had to learn a lot, which I did learn. And it, it was a very heavy cross to bear, because we had started building up, we started ramping up, the company was growing, but it was also failing at the same time because, as the more we grew, the harder it became to sustain the business. In fact, why? Because something I mentioned earlier, we didn't focus on retention properly, right? So we thought we could scale before we were ready to scale. And we took that investor's money, convincing them that we were ready to scale, and we weren't ready to scale. And so their expectations were beyond what we were ready to perform at. And we had the leaky bucket syndrome in a lot of cases where we were able to sell customers. We had a great product, and it was not like we built something bad or wrong. It just wasn't done cooking. It wasn't ready to get to have that push behind it. And the more we pushed it, the more people were coming in and falling out the hole in the bottom of the bucket. And this became very problematic, and it drained capital, and it put me in to this day it hurts, right? Like, where we had to fire people, and I disappointed the investors and my family. And just very lucky to have such a supportive system in my life. Otherwise, things could have turned out very different at a personal level for me. But
Absolutely.
one of the things that I learned in that phase is, I'm not a loser. I am a winner. And like all entrepreneurs, you make mistakes. Now, granted, at the time, I will admit I was in a very deep hole emotionally. It was a very tough time in my life. It took a little while to come out of that, but I did.
What brought you out? What brought you out? What would you say brought you out?
Just getting sick and tired of feeling that way, because I've had a strong belief in myself, and I've had confidence, and I've succeeded. I know how to succeed as well. This just knocked me down hard because of all, the negative impacts that I had, not just on me, but other people. and it took a while to recover. And over time, I started reconvincing myself I know what to do. I know how to succeed. I know how to, be successful and drive a good business, and I'm a good person, and it just but it took a while to get there. And as an entrepreneur, you're gonna hopefully no one fails like I failed, but I hear stories and it happens. People do fail, unfortunately, that way. But even in small failure, people can feel that way. And the key part is just have confidence in yourself and never forget that you're a winner, and you can win. And sometimes you have to learn, right? And you have to be willing to learn. And as an entrepreneur, even with success, and no matter how many businesses you start, be willing to listen and learn, and surround yourself with people that can help you, that you can learn from, that can help guide you. And even if it's to give you feedback, right? Be a sounding board, but be open to that feedback, and don't think that you know everything about what you're doing, right? And that was part of my problem early on. But we snapped back, and again, learned a lot of, aside from those lessons, it also, what I did learn was some of the ways to focus on the pieces of the business that were important to monitor, right? And so now I come back with that education, and kind of like a fresh start, and a fire in my gut to make good on that failure, right? So part of my passion, part of what's driving me too is, hey, I owe it to the entrepreneur community, and to come back and be strong and be successful. I owe it to me. I owe it to my family. I owe it to anybody that I can bring back and come up with a re-demonstrate that success, show. And I owe it to the other people who failed, that have felt that maybe they can't fail. You know what? I need to demonstrate that you can fail, and you can fail hard, but don't worry about it. Accept it, own it, apologize for it, feel bad for it, do what you can to reconcile that, right? But get up, dust yourself off, and go back out there and do it again, and do it right. Learn from what you did wrong and do it right.
I'm curious, does spirituality play a role in that for you?
It does. Yes, it does. I consider
And
myself a very spiritual person. Not so much as religious as I am spiritual, but very spiritual.
absolutely. And then if you, in some of those moments during when it was really the hardships, what would you, that piece of advice, now that you have this information, you would give to yourself then? Would it just be to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, or is there something you would say to yourself, here's what Mark, you should have done this at this time, if you were talking to yourself?
Yeah, I would say make decisions faster,
Mm.
right? Trust your gut and make decisions faster. Because I think when you know something's right, it's right. And when you know something's wrong, something's wrong. Don't waffle
Oh,
on it,
very good.
right?
I like that.
Make
Yes,
decisions,
yes.
right? And be more open to feedback, which I am. All those things I am now. At the time, though, again, unfortunately, I just, the first business, we didn't really have problems. I mean, of course we had problems, but we didn't have like problems. Like same thing, like we're doing, we integrate, we built a steady, very successful business, that, any problems were kind of dwarfed by its success. So, I guess I didn't have that benefit of learning from any kind of failure really at that time. So the second one was a crash course in it, literally, in failure. But yeah, so I would say, so I was a little, like I said, I was overconfident. I was over, this sort of attitude, like I know how to do everything. I know what I'm doing. I just came off a very successful company. Who are you to tell me this and that sort of thing? A little bit of that going on. Even though I felt like I intentionally surrounded myself, with my own advice. I did surround myself with people who could help me, that were very smart at what they do. But, I wasn't being honest, right? Because my ego, I had a big ego at the
Mm.
time.
So
And
ego
that,
had to get out of the way. Ego had to get out of the way. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, ego definitely had to get out of the way there. So I would say, just like I said, just listen more, and make your decisions faster.
Making decisions faster. Would you say that lines up with the most critical skills you believe an entrepreneur should have to succeed? Is that one of those character traits?
Definitely, and definitely the openness and willingness to listen, and realize that you don't know everything. You're never going to know everything, and your job is not to know everything. Right? Your job is to surround yourself with people who know everything. Right? Like that. That's you.
Hmm.
You want your bit. You can't. If you're thinking about a scalable business, you have to bring on the right people that can do the things you need them to do. Right? So you have to be willing to do that, and yes, you have to have confidence in your ability to make decisions, and make decisions fast, and trust your gut, right, to help you make those decisions. But there's also a saying, make the decision and then make the decision right, right. So
Like that.
right, and that doesn't mean like you force fit that to happen, but you'll make your decision and you learn from that decision, and you might have to course correct because of that decision, right? But the point is, just make the decision, make that happen, and then move on, whether you're going this way or that way, depending on what comes out of that decision. And you have to not
And
be.
if you,
So good.
oh no, please finish.
No, I was gonna say, you also have to be tenacious. You have to be a little aggressive, right? But you have to be tenacious, and you have to know that you're gonna struggle. There's gonna be, you can struggle in all different ways, in time, in frustration, in money, right? And you just gotta kind of know that you're gonna get through it. Just keep making smart decisions, but also don't put yourself out there too far. Like kind of moderate it. You know what I mean? Like don't be what's the word I'm looking for? Don't be negligent about your passion, right? Don't just go out and do something if you're excited about it. Like, be smart about it, but you have to be tenacious. You have to make those smart decisions, and you have to be open minded, be truthful with yourself, and listen to what other people are telling you. And just because someone's telling you something doesn't mean you have to also, like, and when I say listen to someone, like, you don't have to necessarily do what they say, but you have to be smart enough to accept what they're saying, and hear against the honest truth, and make the right decisions based on that information.
You bring up a very interesting point. I'm curious. Looking up in, or I'm sorry, and being smart. Being smart means what? Is that to make the decision quick and just stick to it, or is being smart now that you've collected information, you've surrounded yourself with people, and you have a sense of confidence in your spiritual nature? Being smart. Define that from your words.
Yeah. So I would say, Seth, it's by being smart. Yes, you definitely trusting your gut, and I think a lot of that smart comes in being honest, right? Like I was saying, like, being honest. And it's easy as an entrepreneur, like, to get emotionally involved, right?
Mhm.
Because you want this to succeed. You are passionate about this. It has to work. Especially, like I'm sure every entrepreneur has like 50%, no, probably like 90% of the people telling them that they're never going to succeed at this, and a lot of times it's the people that are closest to them. So you're kind of battling these things, and there's an interesting story, quick little, like, made up story, but it's a story. Like, if, let's say you and I are friends, which we are now, right? And
Yes, absolutely. We got
and
meatloaf in common. We got meatloaf in New York in common, so we're friends for life.
exactly, yeah. But let's say you want to buy a new car, right? And you come to me, and you're like, "Hey, Mark, I'm thinking about buying this new, Toyota something or other, right?" And I say, "Seth, I'm so glad you came to me. You should not buy that car, because this friend of mine, it's always in the shop. It's this, it's that. It's got problems. The gas mileage isn't what it says it is. You're not going to be happy. I have 5 friends of mine that have that exact car. none of them like it, I strongly recommend looking at something else, right? And your feelings might be hurt a little bit, but you'll be thankful that I just saved you from, wasting your money, and you'll appreciate that, and you'll go, pick a new car. But take that same exact experience with one difference, that you already bought the car, right? So now you come to me and you're like, hey, Mark, I just bought this brand new car. It says Toyota something or other, blah, blah, blah. And I go, Seth, I really wish you would have come to me before you bought that car. I could have saved you. Like, so-and-so has got problems with it, this problem. But now what happens? You resent me and you get defensive, and you're going to defend that car at all costs, because it's a reflection of the decision that you just made, right? So you have to, in the same way as you're building a business, you have to be, you can't let that car purchase get in the way of making the right decisions, right? So you have to be open-minded, not be defensible, look at things very, like if a business is doing well or not. All businesses have ups and downs, right? Be honest with yourself and be honest with others. In fact, if you run into tough situations, share that feedback with your family. I mean, let them in, like,
Oh, I like that.
and I didn't do that.
Yes, yes.
I thought I was protecting them, and I was shielding them from all the problems. And then one day out of nowhere, I had to come home and explain that everything's gone, right? Like that's a shock, So communicate, like involve them, because this does affect them too. And especially people that are helping you. Like if you have a advisory board or board of directors, be honest, ask for advice, tell them all the things that are going wrong, because there will be, your business could be succeeding and things are still going wrong, right? Because you want to get the help on how to course correct the things that are going wrong, right? And so just, kind of really be open with that.
And in line with that, where do you see in 10 years the vision for We Integrate?
Oh, we got some very, very exciting big plans, Seth. I mean, what we're doing right now is just the start of where we're headed to. With what we're doing, part of our success has come. We're incorporating robotic process automation, RPA, right? So basic form of intelligence, right? That the system is able to figure out and make decisions for people, but it's very basic kind of decision making. But what we do was,
please forgive me, Mark.
Yes.
Mark, if you don't mind, is that I guess I want clarity. That's somewhat in line with AI. Am I understanding correctly?
It is somewhat in line with AI. Yep. It's very, like, lower level form of AI, right? So it does help the system make decisions based on data that's provided, right?
Okay.
And so we incorporate a lot of that into our processes that allow our system to function very automated, hands off, and that's where the degree of intelligence comes in that we have so far. But going forward, and this is just our start is that we're integrating Shopify with QuickBooks, handling that bookkeeping side. But we're going to expand. We integrate into more of a e-commerce operations platform with AI at its core. That's going to really help solve some major problems that entrepreneurs are facing in trying to run their businesses.
Would you mind elaborate a little further on that? That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, happy to. I don't want to elaborate too much.
Oh, no, not the obvious reason.
but a little insight is, we find that, there's a high rate of failure in businesses because people don't necessarily, especially with something like Shopify, where it's so easy to start it. Like you mentioned before, like starting a business on the side. Well, side hustles are very common these days, more so than ever, right? For
Absolutely.
all the market, economy driven events, etc. The ease of being able to start up a Shopify store on the side, right? So it's easy to be excited about selling, something that you love, right? And you're like, hey, you know what? I want to sell it. This is like, I hate my job or this or whatever. I'm just not making enough money, even if you love your job, and I want to venture off on the side, and I love this, right? And then you say, cool, I'm going to set up a Shopify store, not realizing, what you're getting yourself into, right? That you're going to have a business. You're going to have to make decisions on how to run that business. And so the statistics show that around 70% of e-commerce businesses will fail early on, primarily because the people that are running the business don't know how to run the business, right? They don't know how to make the right financial investments. They know how to make, the right strategic investments from a marketing, from a sales, from a inventory operations, right? All these facets. And what we're going to do is we're going to help solve those problems for people.
Fantastic. So in about 10 years time, you see it more, some AI, somewhat inclined there, and growing the platform to that degree.
Well, it's going to be a lot sooner than 10 years, but that'll be the catapult to those 10 years of some, God willing, very big success for our company and people involved here.
I have no doubt. And Marc, for fun, if you had 3 things on your top fun list that and just automatically, I do these for fun, what would those be?
I don't do anything for fun. I work, and I work. If my family's watching this, they're gonna be like, "Yes, you finally told the truth. We love to work." Right? So right? No, I mean, I do like to work, by the way. But it's not the work; it's the passion for what we're building, right? So, but
For sure.
all kidding aside, I like to take care of myself, so I do go to the gym and I work out. I find it's a sense of meditation for me as well. Some days I will ride the bicycles, and I ride pretty intense. I used to teach spin classes, by the way. So, I kind of got
You teach
that.
spin classes?
I used to. I taught spin classes for 9 years.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Class. Yeah. My class was either loved my class or you hated my class. Like there was no middle ground. And it was a pretty intense class.
So were you one of the ones? Were you one of the instructors when we're in spin class and we're going, I hate this guy today. Oh, I hate this guy today.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yet they kept coming back for more.
That's it. We always do.
Yeah. So I do that. I love to spend time with my family, when I can, so that means a lot to me. And being a New Yorker, we spent some time in Central Park and just kind of chilling out and walking around, hanging out.
Oh, I miss that. I do miss that very much. I miss that part of New York very much. I'm hoping to go back the end of this summer. And Marc, you have a very cool shirt on. If you can sit back just a little bit so they can see that shirt, because there we go. There we go. And I want people to really get familiar with that title, We Integrate. I would love for people to get to follow up with you, Marc. Can you please give them how to contact you and what's the best places as we leverage some of We Integrate's logos and name brand?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is We Integrate, spelled just like that, .co, not com, .co. If you are a Shopify merchant, you'll also see us in the Shopify App Store. By the way, solid 5-star reviews, I must add.
Oh, yeah.
If anybody wants to contact me directly, whether it be about We Integrate or you're an entrepreneur and something I said today resonated with you, you're welcome to email me. My email is Marc, M-A-R-C, @weintegrate.co. And I think that's about it.
Well, I will also,
LinkedIn, Facebook.
Forgive me.
We're on.
Please repeat that, Marc. I apologize.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. We had a technical difficulty. If you don't mind repeating that last part.
Oh, I was just saying that we have. We're also. You'll find us in social media as well. Like we're on LinkedIn. We have a page on LinkedIn and a page on Facebook and YouTube. You're welcome to follow us there as well.
And I will be putting some of those details in the links as well. I want to say, Marc, this has been completely fascinating. I can't tell you how privileged we at Makers Bar are to have you here today. It's been enlightening. And not just because you're my dude now, because we already are New Yorkers. And plus you're in Manhattan, my hometown. And plus you love meatloaf. So we want to. That's right. That's not food, it's the band. That's right. I want to thank you humbly on behalf of Makers Bar and myself, Seth Garvey Baxter. I want to say we at Makers Bar, we're hoping to inspire, to create new leaders, and it's persons like Marc Kalman here that is doing so. Entrepreneurs, definitely encourage you to reach out to Marc. You'll be hearing more and seeing more from We Integrate and Marc Kalman on LinkedIn, on our YouTube channel, which you'll see this Makers Bar interview, and looking forward to all the things that We Integrate is going to do in the future. For Makers Bar, I would like to thank Marc Kalman, We Integrate, and today, make it your best day. Reach out and touch someone else's lives. Anything else you would like to add, Marc?
No, Seth, just thank you again for this amazing opportunity. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed spending some time with you today and your listeners here, and hopefully something resonated with someone that'll help, inspire them and help make a difference in their pursuits of their entrepreneurship.
I'm sure it did. Marc, thank you so much. I can't wait to continue to stay in contact with you. You have
Likewise.
the best day, my good friend. Absolutely.
You too, Seth.
Take good care.
Thanks.
Thank you, Marc. Absolutely. Everyone stay in love, stay in peace, show up and exist, and create a difference. Marc?
Yes, sir. What do you think?
Thank you so much. I thought there was